Putin is asking for a truce. Could it be that the bunker dweller can no longer guarantee safety even in Moscow?
Vladimir Putin has expressed his willingness to declare a truce in the conflict with Ukraine by May 9th.
Following in Tuapse's footsteps. For the second day, drones are attacking Perm. A precision job in the Voronezh region, -2 Russian helicopters. Medvedev came out of his bender and started threatening the US with nuclear missiles.
Within the borders of our nation, there is most certainly a nuclear strategic triad, and it is carefully maintained and preserved, as they say, in a state of constant readiness.
Has Ukraine already been struck? Trump discussed Ukraine with Putin over the phone.
We had a good conversation. I think he was ready to make a deal some time ago. It seems to me that some people prevented him from doing it.
In the middle of the night, Putin received Kadyrov at the Kremlin and supported his nomination for a new term.
You have family there. If you give your approval, and if the people elect me, then I will continue to serve as your loyal servant, Dawn, and I won't let you down, Dawn.
I know, Ramzan.
Does Russia not want a war with Europe? Then what are all these threats for?
If you say every day that war is inevitable, then it will start. There can be plenty of reasons and pretexts.
Greetings, I'm Volodymyr Rabchin. This is Ukraine Today. Please subscribe, leave a like, and let's move on to the news. The Defense Forces struck 2 small warships that were guarding the Kerch Bridge. We are talking about the FSB patrol boat Sobol and the anti-sabotage boat Grachonok. Judging by this footage, the attack was carried out using naval drones. Tuapse 2.0, SBU drones visited one of Russia's largest oil refineries, Lukoil Permnefteorgzintes. This is in Perm, as you can easily guess. A large-scale fire broke out at the site. A key primary oil refining unit has been preliminarily damaged. It was also loud in Russian Dzerzhinsk. There, it likely hit the Sverdlov chemical plant, one of the largest explosives manufacturers in Russia. This is a strategic facility that is under sanctions and, of course, is a legitimate target. And of course, how could we not mention the situation in Tuapse, where the oil refinery is burning? The Kremlin insists that there is no serious threat. Meanwhile, burning petroleum products are flowing through the streets of the city.
The head of the Krasnodar region reported to Putin that there are no serious threats to Tuapse. Meanwhile, the new landmark of the resort town, the Tuapse volcano, or simply the blazing oil refinery, can be seen from hundreds of kilometers away.
This is just insane.
And while TASS is publishing videos of a volcanic eruption in Hawaii, residents of the Krasnodar region are posting explosions at the blazing oil refinery, one of Russia's main oil export arteries, in local social media groups.
A barrel burst. It's hot standing by the window. Everything's flowing, everything.
The burning oil products even spread out onto the nearby streets. After Mordor first manifested itself within the borders of Tuapse and the fire spread to houses adjacent to the refinery, the authorities declared a local state of emergency. 60 Russians have already been evacuated. They were accommodated in a school and fed pasta with meat.
We were welcomed warmly. They feed us. There is a place to sleep. Of course, this is a real tragedy, a big one. We would like to thank our government, the government, for what they are doing for us, for ordinary people. They are putting out the fire, you know, it's very dangerous.
The governor of Krasnodar Krai could no longer ignore the consequences of the third attack on the plant in April. On site, he acted as an experienced crisis manager, giving valuable advice to the rescuers.
The fuel, the oil, spread onto the road. Several cars were damaged, but are we keeping the situation under control?
We're keeping control. We are doing to save people's lives and health.
Absolutely right.
However, in reality, his visit was seen on the ground from a different angle than by Kondratyev's PR team.
Governor Kondratyev came yesterday. They quickly shot a 1-minute video. He approached the volunteers. Of course, they didn't show the beach. And then he left. But on all the local channels, they're broadcasting how Patriarch Kirill awarded him yet another order.
The awkwardness of the situation the governor found himself in is explained by his personal meeting with Putin at the beginning of April, right before the Ukrainian drone attacks on Tuapse.
the governor of Kuban, Veniamin Kondratyev, reported to Putin that there were no serious threats to Tuaps due to the fire at the local oil refinery. That's quite understandable. After the search of Kondratyev's estate, worth 1 billion rubles, he solemnly promised Putin that all the beaches of Kuban would be open this year and that there would be a normal swimming season. However, Kondratyev himself still prefers not to linger in Tuaps.
Even Putin himself could no longer ignore what was happening. However, the formidable dictator, whose approval rating is rapidly plummeting, mumbled the following.
This will change nothing, but there are threats and they are growing, as I have already said. Drone strikes on civilian infrastructure are becoming more frequent. For example, the latest case is the strikes on energy facilities in Tuaps, which could potentially cause serious environmental consequences. However, the governor just reported he is on site, or at least he was there a couple of hours ago. Apparently, there are no serious threats to the area, and people on the ground are coping with the challenges they are facing.
That they are encountering.
The only thing that changed after this so-called intervention was the arrival of the head of the Ministry of Emergency Situations for Krasnodar Krai, Kurenkov, who also gave plenty of valuable instructions to the local rescuers.
The situation is challenging and complex, but it is at this very moment under control. We have now familiarized ourselves with all the circumstances. There are outlined plans that will be implemented around the clock. Work is ongoing. We are keeping the situation under control, and I think that in the near future there will be certain results.
In Tuaps, where according to the authorities there are no serious problems, several dozen streets have been left without water supply due to the shutdown of pumps at the oil refinery. Local residents are advised not to go outside due to the increased concentration of benzene in the air. Meanwhile, the baton of striking images has passed from Tuaps to Perm. Defense forces attacked major oil refineries in the region. According to analysts, the reserves are enough to burn for several days.
We are monitoring the situation as it develops. In the past 24 hours, Russia has lost at least 1,470 occupiers killed and wounded. Thus, since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, that is already 1,330,290 invaders. In addition, over the past 24 hours, Ukraine's defense forces have destroyed 7 Russian tanks and 7 armored combat vehicles. Attention! 119 artillery systems and dozens more units of other Russian military equipment. The enemy is preparing new offensive operations and an expansion of mobilization. This was reported by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. Next, more details about the Kremlin's plans and how Ukraine will thwart them.
Russia plans to expand mobilization in order to continue offensive operations. This was reported by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
According to the Ukrainian president, the line of contact in 2026 is practically in the same positions as it was in 2025. In other words, there has been no actual advance by the Russian occupiers.
According to Ukrainian intelligence, the Russians admit that it is impossible to fulfill the tasks set by their leadership because the Ukrainian defense forces are destroying the enemy's offensive potential.
In addition to the possibility of conducting partial and full mobilization, the Russian Federation has diversified sources for replenishing its personnel, including the implementation of total mobilization in the occupied territories of Ukraine, primarily in Luhansk and Donetsk regions. The conscription age ranges from 18 to 65 years old.
The current rate of irrecoverable losses among the occupiers is 60% of the total number.
Thanks to the so-called drone wall, Ukraine's defense forces are able to neutralize the main advantages of the Russian army: A. Manpower, B. Heavy armored vehicles, and C. Accordingly, strike capabilities.
Despite the losses, the Russian political leadership is planning further offensive operations and is preparing to mobilize more personnel, in particular by expanding mobilization processes within Russia.
In other words, since the Second World War, the tactics of Russian generals have not changed. They use their personnel exclusively as cannon fodder to break through the echelon defenses of Ukraine's defense forces.
At the moment, Ukraine is focused on increasing the occupiers' losses, strengthening the deployment of drones on the front line, and scaling up sanctions against Russian weapons production and the oil industry.
At present, the width of the kill zones of Ukraine's defense forces exceeds 20 kilometers. Moreover, the occupiers themselves admit that thanks to the widespread use of relays, the ability to strike the operational rear of the Russian grouping in Ukraine has increased to a distance of up to 100 kilometers. The recent strikes on the temporarily occupied areas of Luhansk and Donetsk regions are vivid proof of this.
President Zelensky stated that our country will inform its partners about Moscow's plans for operations against NATO countries, as well as about attempts to further involve Belarus in carrying out Russian objectives.
Now is the perfect time to subscribe to the channel, like this video and share it. Please do it right now. Thank you and glory to Ukraine. One step closer to a coup. In Russia, Prime Minister Mishustin is actively being discussed as a possible new head of the Kremlin, but it is unlikely that Putin will give up power. That means he will have to be convinced to step down, or someone will have to decide for him.
Putin will be removed soon. The Russian dictator is secretly being prepared to be overthrown.
I just know from talking to various people, including those from the administration and the government, that in reality they all secretly hate Putin.
This is former Kremlin activist and author of denunciations against the opposition, Ilya Remeslo. In an interview with Ksenia Sobchak, he voices shocking things.
In my deep conviction already within this 1 year, that is, by the end of 2026 and the beginning of 2027, we will see very major changes. And it's not just me saying this anymore, but also quite establishment figures, for example, people like Gennady Zyuganov.
If you don't urgently take financial, economic and other measures, then by autumn we will face what happened in 17. We have no right to repeat that.
Not long ago, Remeslo publicly supported the war against Ukraine, but in March, everything changed dramatically. On his Telegram channel, he begins to publish posts against the war, demands Putin's resignation, and calls him an illegitimate president.
5 reasons why I stopped supporting Vladimir Putin. The first is the war in Ukraine. The second is the enormous damage to Russia's economy and the well-being of its citizens. The third is the suffocation of internet and media freedom. The fourth is the length of time Putin has been in power. The fifth is that Putin does not respect his voters and does not want to listen to them. The conclusion: Vladimir Putin is not a legitimate president. Vladimir Putin must resign and be put on trial as a war criminal and a thief. Long live freedom, damn it.
Immediately after such revelations, the outspoken blogger was sent to a psychiatric hospital.
It's more secure there.
But the main thing is, the Russian elite has long since lost even the appearance of unity. Inside, only accumulated fatigue and irritation thrive. And the reason is, resources have shrunk, opportunities have diminished, and control has become stricter. And now, when the system no longer provides the same perks, conflicts begin to accumulate within it.
It will be something like a palace coup. A revolution in Russia, the kind of military coup Prigozhin wanted, won't happen. It will be something very quiet. You know, like what happened in 1953, will wake up in a different country.
In the Kremlin's inner circles, there are talks about a possible coup and the figure of a successor. And that is Prime Minister Mishustin.
It may not be obvious to everyone, but Mishustin has serious ambitions. For example, take the fact that he makes statements about the need to end the special military operation soon. The idea that the war needs to be stopped is popular among many members of our elite. And the head of government wants to appeal to many of them. This is dangerous, and we will keep an eye on him.
The fact that Erefia is devouring itself is already obvious, which means that change is not far off.
It truly feels as though some kind of massive and significant upheaval is fast approaching.
And all of this is coming together into a single picture.
Putin's approval rating has started to collapse. And for some reason, Russian sociologists who were essentially just hired hands of the presidential administration have become bolder and started publishing this data.
On one hand, there is external pressure, war, sanctions, and strikes on infrastructure. On the other, there are internal contradictions that can no longer be hidden, even within the system itself.
There's also this feeling that it's no coincidence that all sorts of strange figures and personalities are appearing, like, you know, a hero from the world of insects. Sometimes it's some Z-patriots, sometimes it's some professional informers, or a Z-patriot like the former people's governor of the DPR, Pasha Gubarev. Then there's someone like Bonya. I won't say what her name rhymes with, though I'd like to. It's like everyone's getting involved, everyone's doing something. Some are harassing Putin, some are demanding things from Putin, some are criticizing. It's absolutely clear that someone is giving them carte blanche, someone is paying them or promising them protection, promising them safety in this situation.
If before, the Kremlin confidently projected the image of a monolithic power where all decisions were made firmly and without hesitation, today that structure is starting to crack.
Russian terror. 1 person was killed and 4 others were injured as a result of the strike on Dnipro. The enemy also attacked Odessa, striking residential neighborhoods and civilian targets. 20 people were injured, 2 of them are in serious condition. The Pentagon has unfrozen $400 million allocated for military aid to Ukraine. The funds had been approved by Congress but remained frozen for a long time. This concerns the financing of weapons production by American companies for the armed forces of Ukraine. The unfreezing happened after several weeks of criticism from lawmakers. I would like to note that another $400 million under the same program are allocated for the year 2027. The United States is considering a possible reduction in the number of its military units in Germany. This was written on the social network Truth Social by the head of the White House, Donald Trump. According to him, a decision on this issue will be made in the near future. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom is calling for increased aid to Ukraine. In particular, King Charles III spoke about this during his address to the US Congress. Those present gave him a standing ovation.
His speech in the US Senate made the Democrats rise and applaud. Trump was never able to achieve this. The words of the British King Charles III were dedicated to Ukraine. The monarch called for preparations for war with Russia in order to protect the bravest people, the Ukrainians.
After the events of September 11, 2001, when NATO invoked Article 5 for the first time and the UN Security Council stood united in the face of terror, we responded to this challenge together. Shoulder to shoulder, we have gone through 2 world wars, the Cold War, Afghanistan, and other episodes that have defined our collective security. Today, decisive action is needed to protect Ukraine and the bravest people.
The monarch visited Washington and met with the US president against the backdrop of the not-so-easy relations between Trump and the British Prime Minister Starmer. Politico reports that King Charles issued a veiled challenge to Trump regarding Ukraine and NATO.
The king went even further, linking that pivotal moment in 2001 to the need to maintain Western unity in supporting Ukraine amid the ongoing war. The king takes a completely different stance compared to Trump's ongoing criticism of Ukraine and its president Volodymyr Zelensky, with whom Charles has met privately for talks several times over the past few years. This passage is a direct appeal to Trump and the Republicans in Congress to maintain American support in the fight against the Russian invasion.
King Charles openly supports Ukraine and openly raises the issue of Ukraine. I am sure that he is now raising this issue about Ukraine in the American Congress, and that he has sent this message to Trump, and he keeps doing it. And British society is quite sympathetic to this. There is a lot of understanding there. They understand that this is truly the right thing to do.
Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the United Kingdom has provided Ukraine with more than £13 billion sterling in military aid. And in 2026, this aid will amount to another £3 billion. A week earlier, the Ministry of Defense of the United Kingdom announced the delivery of at least 120,000 drones to Ukraine. This includes both reconnaissance and cargo UAVs, as well as long-range strike drones.
This large batch of battle-tested drones will give Ukrainian forces the necessary capabilities to protect their people and repel Russian aggression. John Healey, UK Minister of Defense.
And this is far from the complete list of military aid from the British government. London, together with its allies, is also considering the possibility of creating a new financial mechanism, the so-called Defense Bank, which will help Northern European countries rearm more quickly in the face of the threat from Russia. This defense bank includes the UK itself, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Denmark, Iceland, and the Netherlands. And in the event that the US withdraws from NATO or its role in the alliance weakens, European countries are preparing to withstand a Russian attack without the United States and are already successfully helping Ukraine.
In Israel, they refused to unload the Russian ship Panarmatis. This decision was made by the importing company Zintzhyper. Let me remind you, there were serious suspicions that the Panarmatis was transporting stolen Ukrainian grain. Kyiv and Jerusalem actively discussed this issue. Diplomatic efforts, together with public pressure, including from the organization Israeli Friends of Ukraine, produced results. Now Ukraine and Israel must develop a clear action plan that will put an end to Russia's sale of stolen Ukrainian grain. By the way, illegal exports are also going to a number of other countries, in particular to Turkey, Egypt, and Algeria. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Strength to Ukraine's defenders, both men and women. Glory to Ukraine. Subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share this video. See you next time.